Trump weighs joining Iran strikes after calling for unconditional surrender. U.S. President Donald Trump is considering whether to join Israel's strikes on Iran's nuclear sites as the conflict continues for a sixth day and angry rhetoric ramps up between all sides. American strikes could involve using superior weaponry to hit an underground nuclear site at Fordo, according to 5 sources who spoke to the BBC's U.S. partner CBS News. The president met with his national security team on Tuesday to discuss next steps. Israel and Iran have exchanged deadly strikes since Friday. Analysts say Trump's comments suggests a willingness to join the Israelis, despite his earlier call for de-escalation and his vocal support for a diplomatic solution to limit Iran's nuclear research. The U.S. has insisted that Iran must scrap its uranium enrichment to prevent the country developing nuclear weapons, although Iran insists its nuclear activities are entirely peaceful. Trump pulled out of a previous nuclear agreement between Iran and 5 other world powers in 2018. After returning to office, he dispatched negotiators to try to reach a new agreement with the Middle Eastern nation without a breakthrough. Trump appears to have cooled on traditional diplomacy in recent days. On Tuesday, while traveling back to the U.S. from a G7 summit in Canada, he said he was not too much in the mood to negotiate with Iran. Trump's frustrated language implied that he was crossing a threshold that would be very difficult to row back from. Professor Amnon Aaron, an Israeli foreign policy expert, told BBC Radio 5 Live, "We're definitely the closest we have been to a U.S. entry in the conflict since it began," he added. Other pundits suggested Trump could be forced into action. A former Israeli ambassador to the U.S., Michael Oren, speculated that the president would feel he had little choice but to intervene if Iran attacked a U.S. ship or base. However, such an attack might also be an Iranian tactic to prompt Trump to pressurize Israel into negotiating an end to the fighting, Mr. Oren told BBC Radio 4's Today program. Trump himself told reporters on his return from the G7 that his goal was an end, a real end, not a ceasefire. His comments came just hours after he joined other leaders in the Western Alliance in issuing a statement that called for de-escalation in the Middle East. Trump left the summit early to respond to the crisis from Washington before a series of statements left observers unclear which way he might choose to go. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth earlier announced the deployment of additional capabilities to the Middle East to enhance the Pentagon's defensive posture, despite U.S. officials' denial at the time that they were joining the military action. At least 30 U.S. military planes have been moved from bases in America to Europe over the past 3 days, flight tracking data reviewed by BBC Verify has shown. It was unclear whether the U.S. movements were directly connected to the Israel-Iran conflict, but one expert said the tanker aircraft flights were highly unusual. Another expert said that the movements could be part of a broader policy of strategic ambiguity aimed at influencing Iran to make concessions. Signing up to Israeli military action does not have full agreement from Trump's closest advisors, CBS reported, but the dissenting voices have not gone public. There are also a wide range of views within Trump's supporter base. The Republican ran for re-election on the basis that he would disentangle America from conflicts overseas, and he has previously criticized U.S. intervention in the Middle East. Trump's Iran dilemma exposes bitter split among MAGA faithful. On the question of Iran's capacity to build a nuclear weapon, there appears to be a differing assessment by Trump and his Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Asked on Tuesday about Gabbard's earlier suggestion that Iran was not working on a nuclear warhead, Trump replied, "I don't care what she said, I think they were very close to having one." Advisors to both Trump and Gabbard later denied the pair disagreed on the issue. There were no deaths overnight from Tuesday into Wednesday in Israel from Iranian missile attacks, and more than 50 Israeli fighter jets conducted operations in Iran overnight, with strikes on an Iranian centrifuge facility, a missile production facility near Tehran, and a university linked to Iran's Revolutionary Guards. Israel is America's main partner in the Middle East, and Trump has continued to stand by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu amid widespread international condemnation of Israel's military actions in Gaza, following the Hamas attacks on Israel on the 7th of October 2023. A BBC map of Iran showing its main nuclear facilities. It marks research facilities in Tehran, Bonab, and Kondab. It marks a nuclear power plant in Bushehr. It marks uranium mines in Bandar Abbas and Saghand. It marks a uranium conversion plant in Isfahan. It marks uranium enrichment plants in Fordo and Natanz, and it marks undeclared activities in Marivan, Lavisan and Variman.